1996, in my opinion, was the greatest year in sports card history. Topps had just created Chrome and was all about the refractors. Upper Deck was really starting to come into its own and getting creative. But the most important thing happening in the sports card world that year, in my opinion, was the powerhouse design couple, Earl and Jean Arena. Today I want to take a deep dive looking into one of their greatest creations, Fleer Metal. Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as T-Pott. Thanks for coming back for another video. If this is your first time visiting, please go ahead and take a minute to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can always be notified of new videos as they drop every Saturday. We'll also be having live streams on a regular basis, so I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'm really excited to talk about the subject of today's episode, Fleer Metal. 1996 was my absolute heyday. It was the height of my collecting as a child, and there's a recurring theme as I get to know other collectors and other investors who are in the sports card world right now. Many, if not most of us, collected when we were children, and especially during the 80s and into the 90s. In particular for me, 1996 was like the summit, the absolute climax of my nostalgia for card collecting, and it was also one of the greatest NBA rookie classes in history. Certainly, I think you'd think of 1984 with Jordan, Stockton, Barkley, Olajuwon. That's probably the most loaded top four in any draft class in history. Also, obviously, you're thinking about 2003 with LeBron, Wade, Carmelo, and Bosh. But if you look at that 1996 draft class, arguably never has there been such a deep draft class as that particular year. In the first 6 picks, you had Allen Iverson, Marcus Camby, who actually had a really, really good career, great defender, awesome for fantasy basketball. Shareef Abdur-Rahim, who a lot of people really forget about, but that guy was phenomenal. Very, very talented offensive low post player, averaged like 20 points a game, season over season. Very, very talented, and most teams would love to get that kind of a production out of a 3rd overall pick. Stephon Marbury, go back and look at his stats, like a career 20 points and 7 assists per game. Absolutely phenomenal player who got trapped with some kind of questionable teams and bad franchise situations, and obviously went on to great success over in China. Ray Allen, legend in his own right, and Antoine Walker. Those were the first 6 picks. And Antoine Walker also, just like Shareef, fantastic player. I wasn't a particularly big fan of Antoine Walker in the 90s. We always kind of mocked his jump shot and he was banking threes, but still, the guy could really produce. And then the legendary run of 6 players in front of Kobe Bryant, as if it wasn't bad enough that the first 6 went before Kobe. Really the only one, if you go back in hindsight and you think Iverson was a pretty clear-cut number 1 that year, but the next 6 players, Lorenzen Wright, Kerry Kittles, Samaki Walker, Eric Dampier, Todd Fuller, and Vitaly Potapenko. Yes, a guy named Vitaly Potapenko went 1 pick before Kobe Bryant. So obviously Kobe. Then you've got Peja Stojakovic, Steve Nash, Jermaine O'Neal, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, who had a pretty solid career as a big man, and Derek Fisher, who obviously hit big shots for the Lakers and had many championships that he won. So going back to that class and looking through those cards, it is like this wave of pure nostalgia for me. I can remember all the trades and wheeling and dealing I was doing back then in 6th grade, and it is just a lot of fun to think about and reflect on. And that's really what got me started. When I found my binders a few years ago and got back into the sports card world, all of those cards were in my binder from all the key sets that year. Upper Deck, Skybox, Collector's Choice, you name it, Hoops, it was all in there. But none of them stood out to me as much as Fleer Metal. That was the one that it was so special. It was such a unique product when it came out in 1995, and then it got even cooler in 1996. So I wanted to take a minute and just kind of do what I thought would be really fun, a deep dive into this product, go in and look at the different inserts, the pack odds, the pop counts. So let's go over and take a look. So right off the bat, what I've done is I've actually just pulled up 1996 Metal and the base cards in PSA 10 and PSA 9. And one thing that really stands out to me about Metal is how low the pop counts are on PSA 10s and even PSA 9s for non-rookie cards and non-Jordans. So I'm talking about the guys like Hakeem Olajuwon, pop 6, Grant Hill, pop 3 on the PSA 9. We keep scrolling down. You got Dennis Rodman at pop 5 on a PSA 10. Penny Hardaway, pop 1 on the PSA 9. These are very condition-sensitive cards. A lot of issues with corner dinging, surface scratching, very, very tender cards that needed to be taken care of diligently and even opened out of the packs carefully in order to preserve the condition. And so what you see is a lot of these lesser, I guess, lesser name but very, very notable veterans and all-stars, Hall of Famers, they don't have very high population counts. So if you can find these cards, in my opinion, and I'm kind of on the prowl for these, they're worth snatching up because there's obviously not going to be a lot more of these cards being graded in a 10 or even a 9 condition. So continue to scroll down, you can see Scottie Pippen, Pop 12 on his PSA 10, Shaq, Pop 16. Again, these are very low cards, and so you might be wondering, kind of, what are the prices going for? Well, obviously, you've got Kobe and Iverson at the top of the list, no surprise, and then Jordan, followed by Jordan in the PSA 10. Ray Allen comes after that. But when you start getting down into this range, $134 for a Shaq PSA 10 Pop 16. Now, there are some inserts that had, really pretty reasonable pack odds, difficult pack odds, but they have much higher populations than this in a PSA 10 for Shaq cards that go for significantly more than $134. Obviously, I'm not personally a fan of just, chasing every graded base card, but for a set like Metal that was extremely innovative, the set itself was almost like a whole bunch of inserts in the way that it was made, in the crafting of the product. So that's just something that I think is really interesting if you're into collecting Hall of Famers. If you like to, chase things that are rare in terms of pop count, there's certainly a lot of opportunity in here. And if you happen to find somebody or you yourself have some of these cards in really good condition, definitely worth considering getting them graded with one of the companies, whether it's PSA when they reopen or BGS, SGC, HGA, whatever your preference is. But it's nice to get them preserved and get some condition stated on those cards. Now, if we come over to the pop count overall for this set, what you can see is that there are 9,722 graded, actually 10,136 in total with the other ones, the half grades and the qualifiers. But the bulk of these is really, for a 250 card set, only 1,383 total PSA 10s. So that's obviously a really, really low gem rate for all these cards that have been graded. Roughly a 13-14% gem rate. And on a 250 card checklist, as you're scrolling down, you're just seeing Grant Hill, only 2 submitted, both 9s. There's a lot of opportunity here, in my opinion. And again, this is something that, if that's your angle, if you like getting cards graded, if you're patient and you don't mind waiting what can be a year or more to get these cards back, there's a lot of opportunity in here if you can get your hands on some of these metal cards and assess the condition and get them back in a good grade. Now, one thing that I've been noticing is obviously Kobe prices and card prices have gone to the moon, and rightfully so. But another guy like Allen Iverson, who, he was a polarizing figure. Not everybody was an AI fan. Most people loved watching him, regardless of whether or not they were a fan of his. And when I look at a card like this, a Pop 97 PSA 10 for $455, my mind just starts thinking, how does that compare to other cards in the modern market, in the same price range? And so what I did was I went to the price movements by card. I put in basketball, I put in PSA 10, and then I put in a $25 price range on either side of that for $425 to $475. And just scrolling through this, I like to think about this in terms of like a would you rather. Which card would you rather have? Ja Morant's Concourse Tricolor PSA 10, Pop 122, but it's sort of that forgotten variation. Tricolor, some people don't really like the tricolor. It changes every year. Some years it's much gaudier than others. And this is just one of, 20 or 30 different variations, parallels in Select, and it's going for $468 for a player that hasn't proven himself yet, who's actually having quite a bit of regression this year, as a sophomore. Now, I'm a big Ja Morant fan. I'm a believer in him. He's extremely fun to watch. I think he's going to rebound next year, and he'll hopefully have Jaren Jackson by his side, and the Grizzlies will keep building. But I can't imagine paying $468 for this card when I could have Allen Iverson's Pop 97 rookie card from an iconic, absolutely iconic set like this for the same price. And if you scroll down, what's even more impressive is that the PSA 9, which is still just Pop 284, the PSA 9 most recently sold for $71. So if you're doing the math, the ratio on that is pretty darn good too. You're looking at like 6-to-1 basically on that ratio of the PSA 10 to 9. And yes, the 10s again, they're low pop, but even a 9 on a card like this, that's a great value. If I had seen that, I definitely would have bought that for $71. So that's something to keep an eye on too. Just think about this, especially if you're a newer collector, but you're interested in stuff that's older, or if you're just a younger collector who's only into the more modern things. It's really important to have historical context and to kind of think about where these card prices might go and which ones might be still coming up, like this older stuff, versus the newer ones, which probably have a much lower floor than some of these cards do. So that's the base cards. Let's go through the inserts from this set, and there's quite a few of them, but I'll kind of go through them and give you a little bit of understanding of each of these sets. So the first two are Cyber Metal and Power Tools. Now Cyber Metal, these came at 1 in 6 packs, and you can see here you've got Kobe, and then you've got the Ray Allen from this set as well. There's this kind of weird robot insect monkey thing in the background grabbing their legs. I'm not really sure what's happening there, to be honest. This is not my favorite insert from the set. I'd love to talk to Gene Arena and kind of find out what was going on in this card or what the inspiration was, but not really sure. Not particularly rare. However, the Kobe's do go for really good money. And if we come over here and look at the Kobe in particular, you can see $1,000 on his PSA 9, and the PSA 10s are even more rare. I pulled up the 9s and the 8s just to have some visibility to some of these cards, but still $1,000 for his Pop 206. It's not the card I would buy from this set of Kobe if I could, if I had to pick one. It's definitely not the one I would pick, but some people are really into it. And the other one from this set, the Power Tools, this checklist, I think more big men, not a particularly impressive checklist. I want to say it's 10 cards or 10 players, but you can see the Rodman here went for $15 on a PSA 8, and there's not many of these from this checklist graded. So again, opportunity in the inserts as well. Look at the condition on older sets like this and go out to PSA's Pop Report site or BGS if you want to look there and just kind of try to evaluate how many of these cards have actually been graded over time. Sometimes there's really opportunity on these. So the Power Tools were actually 1 in 18 packs. Again, not super rare. When you think about a 10-card checklist and somebody like Dennis Rodman, that means 1 in 180 to pull that particular player. So those are the first two, the most common two inserts from 1996 Fleer Metal. The next two sets, Freshly Forged and Metal Edge. Now Freshly Forged came at 1 in 24 packs, Metal Edge at 1 in 36 packs. Here you can see Freshly Forged, these are rookies. You've got Iverson, you've got the Kobe. Kind of interesting with these like riveted, bolted on metal in the background. Pretty fun design. I like this one better than the Cyber Metal, but when you look at this Metal Edge, this is really interesting. This is kind of this embossed edging here. Fun picture, youthful Kobe. He's holding up the number 8 jersey. This is really one that, if I had to pick between these two cards, I'd be going with the Metal Edge over the Freshly Forged, just a personal style preference, plus it's a little bit more rare. Now what's interesting is that the Freshly Forged actually goes for more than the Metal Edge, and the pop count is 3 times higher than the Metal Edge. And again, it was 1 in 24 versus 1 in 36. So kind of curious. That's the type of thing I like to look at and say, maybe there's an opportunity here on the Metal Edge. You can see it's actually kind of flipped on the PSA 8 for the two. So these prices, they may hover around one another. This is actually an older price back from last sale from February, so maybe the market has shifted on these last 3 sales since April. Next we have Precious Metal, and yes, Precious Metal, not Precious Metal Gems. The Precious Metal Gems were not until 1997. This was the first year of Precious Metal, and this set in particular is one that you have to be really, really careful with, and it gets mislabeled all the time. So what you have to know about Precious Metal is that the background here is this completely silver background, and I'll show you a side-by-side. Okay, this is Allen Iverson's base metal rookie, and you can see it's got this kind of burnt look on the card, like burnt metal. And if you compare it to this one, you can see it's all silver, all gray. That is literally the only indication on these cards that it's a Precious Metal versus a regular base card. And what happens a lot of times is that the base cards, people think they've got a really expensive card. They maybe find their old collection and they pull it out and they go, what is this? And they look it up and they see, oh wow, precious metal, this is $1,000 Allen Iverson card. And they put it on eBay like that. It gets kind of annoying after a while when you have this as a safe search like I have, because it's almost always like 70% of the listings are not actually the precious metal cards. So you have to be really careful. And sometimes it's nice to send the seller a note if they have it mislabeled and just let them know what the difference is. I think honestly it's many times it's people who just don't really understand. Maybe they don't know. Others may be trying to take advantage of people. It's hard to say. But the precious metal cards actually came at 1 in 36 packs, which doesn't sound like it was particularly rare, but it's actually on a 98 card checklist. So it was 98 of the cards from the 250 subset were made in these precious metal parallels. So if you do the math on that, that's 1 in 3,528 packs for a specific player. So 1 in 3,500 to hit an Allen Iverson or a Steve Nash or a Kobe, Ray Allen, and MJ, Grant Hill. And you can see the pop count extremely low on these, pop 2 on the PSA 10. And if you go out to the website for PSA and you look at the pop count on these precious metal cards in particular, they are very, very low. For example, as I'm scrolling down here, you can see, like I've filtered on these, Antoine Walker has only had 4 graded. You got an Anthony Mason, Grant Hill's had 5 graded. Charles Barkley, just 2 graded so far. Kobe, 78. Shaq, 4. So if you happen to stumble across these cards raw, really honestly, regardless of the player, but especially if it was a player who had a really, pretty decent career, again, look it over, see if it's worth sending into grading, and make sure to go out to our website at www.sportscardinvestor.com and click on grading to find out more about our bulk submissions with PSA when they reopen, but also with BGS and CSG. All right, so that's the precious metal parallels. I actually have a Grant Hill PSA 8 coming in the mail someday soon. I picked it up on ComC, so I'm really excited about that. Let's go on to the next set. So now we're getting into 2 of the insert sets that I actually really like from this product, Steel Slammin' and Platinum Portraits. Now the Steel Slammin', those came at 1 in 72 packs, and the Platinum Portraits at 1 in 96 packs. You can see the Platinum Portraits. The only thing I'm not really fond of, horizontal landscape cards. It just makes them hard to display. In the grading slab, they always kind of look a little bit funny, and sometimes depending on what the back of the card looks like, they end up going in different directions. So that is the one drawback, but you've just got this very classic look here. MJ's silver sort of portrait, platinum portrait, obviously, and again at 1 in 96, pretty rare cards. Now I really like these steel slamming inserts. Very cool. Really the only 3 players of notoriety from this set or this checklist. You got MJ, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kevin Garnett. Those are really the big 3. But again, at 1 in 72 packs, not very many of these graded. In fact, you can see that Shaq, for example, only 7 graded in a PSA 9. And, $111. Again, like we were talking about, go out and compare what you can buy for $111 on the price movements page. And you'll see that something like this, pretty rare, 1 in I think 720 packs to get the Shaq specifically, and then to have it in this high quality grade, definitely worth considering. And compared to some of the more ultra modern cards that could be a lot more volatile than this Shaq, which is again, the pop's probably not going to go up much over time. All right, next up, definitely a fun one, and multiple sets they did this with in the 90s, did Fleer, but they basically did a recreation, a reprint of the 86 Fleer Jordan, of the 86 Fleer set. They call this one Decade of Excellence, and they put it in several different products in 1996, including metal. So they did a metal Decade of Excellence, and you can see these were 1 in 100 packs, and the Jordan in particular, Pop 31. Now the interesting thing about this is the rest of this checklist, you got guys on there from the 86 product, Clyde Drexler and Charles Barkley, etc. Their raw cards are really not very expensive. I'm talking like $3, $5, $10. There were serious issues with the centering on this, not unlike the actual original 86 Fleer. Even this one you can see top to bottom was off. So if you happen to stumble across these cards from metal at 1 in 100 packs, and I can't exactly remember how big the checklist was, definitely worth looking into them to see is the condition good, because the pop counts are extremely low. And I will say that Hammer, who's on our team, he picked up one of these in raw at the local card shop down in Atlanta. Definitely was really excited to have one of these. Obviously, if you can't afford the original 86, you could always look for an alternative like this and still get that great shot. All right, now this next set is probably the one that I think has the biggest opportunity. And maybe it's just me, maybe it's just personal preference, but Maximum Metal. This set was 1 in 180 packs, and it's actually a pretty big checklist. But these cards are really, really cool. And the reason I like them, quite a bit is just the color really pops. When you see one of these in hand, sometimes they look like they're photo edited. Maybe on this Antoine Walker, they dialed up the saturation a little bit for the photo. But in general, they do look really cool in hand. We've got this kind of like, metal basketball coin thing in the background, and actually a really good checklist of players, really good. Penny, Antoine Walker was a rookie that year. C-Webb, the Admiral, the Worm, Grant Hill, the Dream, Jason Kidd, etc. John Stockton, Karl Malone, obviously MJ, Sean Kemp, and Stephon Marbury. I just picked up one of these Marburys raw on eBay, and technically I overpaid a little bit for it. I think I paid $20 with taxes and shipping, but the card looked like it was in really good condition. Based on the pictures and the description from the seller, it looked like it could, potentially grade maybe a PSA 9. So that's why I picked it up. Super low populations on these cards, and if you look at them, and let's just sort greatest to least here. You got the MJ going for $850 raw. 1 in 180 packs. That's probably what you'd expect for a card like this. But then when you start scrolling down and you look at this, like $30 for Karl Malone, Penny Hardaway at $25, Grant Hill at $25, Stockton at $17. Hakeem Olajuwon's cards, his inserts, like outside of his actual, rookie card, his inserts from the 90s are criminally undervalued. And I know people throw that phrase around a lot, but seriously, Hakeem Olajuwon's cards do not get the respect they deserve when most people consider him for sure a top 5 center of all time. For me personally, he's actually the best center I ever saw play. I would put him ahead of Shaquille O'Neal in terms of skill and overall talent, especially in the defensive end. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Hakeem Olajuwon, and if you can pick up this card for $16, and you'll just see if I change my search here, I did put in all of these cards. Let's see how many of them there are graded. We just ran this result, and you can see these are the only 2 that have sold in the last 90 days since I added these. The Jordan and the Rodden, which is a Pop 1 PSA 10, went for $244. Again, go out and see what else you can buy for $244 and do a comparison. That's probably a pretty good deal on a Pop 1 in 180 pack Dennis Rodman card. And actually, if we come over and we look at the pop count on PSA's website directly, you can see only 27 10s graded total on this set. 20 card checklist, so do the math, 20 times 180 to get the pack odds per player. And you can see only 108 graded in total, or 112 I should say. So 112 cards graded in total in this checklist. Definitely, and 86 of them are Jordan. Something worth considering. So this next insert set is actually a really, really unique one. And Fleer did something kind of funny, and they actually did this on a few of the products from Series 1 metal to Series 2 metal. They changed up the design and the style. They did that on some of the base cards. They did it on some of the sort of inserts within the base set. But this is actually an insert set that they changed the design on, and they changed the pack odds on this set, but they kept it as part of the same checklist. So what it is cards 1 through 10 were in Series 1, and those were also 1 in 180 packs. And that's the ones where you're going to see this kind of 3D lenticular design with Kevin Garnett, Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, Damon Stoudemire, Joe Smith, McDyess, Finley. I think that's the checklist. And then you get into this other design where, like the MJ, it's sort of more of this embossed look to it, just more of a classic metal finish. These ones, in my opinion, they can look a little bit washed out. You got to be really careful. The shadowing can be kind of funny. You can tell they're hard to get good scans or photos of. Here's the Iverson. But again, the Jordan selling for $970 raw. It's really interesting that if you go and you look at the base card set and you compare the prices, you see that the PSA 10 Iverson is actually selling for slightly more than the Jordan. Again, lower pop, but selling for slightly more than the Jordan. But then you come back to this insert set, and I guess it's because people don't consider inserts rookie cards, even though they're technically rookie year. But I mean, that's a massive difference in price for cards from the same insert set. You got the Jordan, at almost 5x what the Iverson's going for. So I always kind of think that's interesting too, just to see how people price things, and what the market's willing to pay for certain cards. This is why sometimes, even though I love the ratios, the player ratios can be fun to look at, but you can't just trust them as creed, because it literally does go case by case and card or insert by insert. So definitely of these two sets, these ones are kind of hard to gather a really good quality photo of, but in hand they do look really, really cool. I'd be chasing these Molten Metal Series 1 in 180 packs. Great checklist. See if you can find these for a good deal. The Grant Hill for $48, Penny for $45. Definitely worth picking up these cards. And if we look at the pop count in total for these, you've got 209 total graded, just 46 10s, so less than a 25% gem rate on the Molten Metal checklist. Okay, last but not least on this checklist, this is an insert that I'm not particularly fond of. It's the most rare from the set, 1 in 288 packs. This is basically the case hit of metal, and netrageous. Die cut, not the coolest die cut in my opinion. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of like a Payday candy bar, the way it's shaped. Maybe it's making me think of like Nutrageous, but anyway, definitely rare cards. You can see the raw Jordan going for $910. It's interesting that this one is 1 in 288 packs going for $910 raw. 1/4 is rare, albeit with the 20-person checklist from Series 2 compared to the smaller checklist, I think, on the Netrageous. Just interesting that those cards, when they're in raw format, going for the same price. If you scroll down the list, it's definitely a loaded checklist. MJ, Garnett, Rodman, Shaq, Penny, Kemp, Grant Hill, Damon Stoudemire, Juwan Howard, and Jerry Stackhouse. And back in the day, all three of these guys were definitely noteworthy players. Damon Stoudemire won the Rookie of the Year in '95. Jerry Stackhouse was a bright young player who people had a lot of hope for. And Juwan Howard, obviously coming out of Michigan. He was a very solid player in the younger part of his career. But it's really interesting that a card that's 1 in 288 packs for these guys, who had all the potential in the world in their first few years in the league, now today, 25, 26 years later, going for like $20 on a super rare card. That's that cautionary tale perspective piece that I keep bringing up. Just really important to keep that in mind when you're thinking about investing in sports cards. Go to the pop counts, and you can see 181 total graded, only 34 10s. Scroll down, and you can see a significant portion of these, more than half, 107 out of the 181 have been Jordans graded. So keep an eye on that if you stumble across a good deal on a Netrageous in good condition. And the last thing I wanted to do was I thought it'd be kind of fun to take a look at Kobe specifically. Obviously, he's the highlight of this class. You can see all of his different cards here from the checklist. This obviously is precious metal at the top, 11,200 on the PSA 9 Pop 21. And then you can see the fresh foundation here. Now, the interesting thing with the fresh foundation is that this is a Pop 117. And it's actually going for, significantly more than, for example, it's a Pop 117, and it's the second most expensive card on the checklist for Kobe's rookie cards. Even this Cyber Metal, which was just 1 in 6 packs, going for $4,450. The pop count, again, is, much lower on these than it is on the base card. But traditionally, the rookie card, the actual true rookie card, sells for more than like an insert like this one, which is actually part of the base set. It's card number 137 in the base set, and a very common, not super rare insert, even though the condition sensitive Pop 80. What I find interesting is that when you get down here, the Fresh Foundation PSA 9, which is Pop 478, is only selling for slightly less than the PSA 9 Pop 34 Metal Edge, and again, that was the 1 in 36 pack insert. So those things kind of set off little alarm bells for me. They don't make sense. It's a little bit of cognitive dissonance. And so sometimes there's opportunity in those things, even if the market hasn't realized it yet. sort of capitalize on that and look for those opportunities. When I see things like this, what I see is a lot more upward potential than the ones that already seem to be too high proportionally. So those are Kobe's cards, rookie cards, and rookie year inserts from 1996 metal. And the last thing that you can do is kind of look at where does the metal card stack up in Kobe's long list of rookie cards. And in my opinion, Kobe Bryant has the best rookie card checklist of any player in history, in my opinion. Because 96 was such a big year for sports cards, so many creative things happening with inserts and innovation and styles. And then he just has this long list of great cards. Huge list of cards. Compare that to somebody like Jordan who has the sticker and the base card and that's it. You know, obviously there's a much different market cap structure here spread out across many different cards for Kobe, but it makes it super fun to pick your favorite ones and to be able to, you know, kind of collect those or invest in them for the long term. So if we look at this list, what I did was I just pulled together ones that are of similar caliber, similar pricing. And you can see the rookie exclusive, which I love this card. This is like pure nostalgia for me, watching my friend open a box of Upper Deck in 1996 for Christmas that he got from his parents. I'm a huge fan of Ultra from that year with the sort of neon glowing text. And you can see these are both lower pop than the metal, and they're going for more money. This one's a pretty recent surge. I believe that it's gone up. It's kind of gaining popularity over time. But it's just really interesting to me. I know that the chrome was a big deal. 96 was the first year of chrome. People love the chrome. I get it. The refractors look phenomenal. But when I look at a card like this, Topps was, other than Collector's Choice and maybe Hoops, Topps with Fleer, regular Fleer, were like value products in 1996. Value products. Very common, highly printed. You have a picture of Kobe here sort of doing a jump step into the lane. Pop 2,801. And this card's, I guess because of the importance of chrome that year, it's become sort of the flagship Kobe card. But for $5,000, I would much rather have a metal and an ultra, both significantly lower population, for roughly the same price as this card. You can actually, if you were to look up and pull up the Topps Chrome card, his base card in a PSA 10, you could have almost one of every other PSA 10 rookie card, base rookie card of Kobe Bryant, other than the Chrome and the Topps, for the same exact price. That's just the collector in me. That's the nostalgia in me. I'd rather have this variety. So many great pictures. Gotta love the skybox with the glowing, sparkling magic ball. The Upper Deck, card with Kobe just fresh-faced. The little, note about him and the sunglasses on the head. This one with the very stern look and, looking all serious. And then this card, the Kobe Bryant UD3 Hardwood Prospects. This was a premium product. Topps was not a premium product. UD3 was a very premium product back in 1996. Pop 823, and it's going for $1,000. $1,000. You can't even see it from this photo, but the texture on the card is actually like wood grain, and there's like this rainbow foil finish around the players in this set. For me, I'd be going for this, the cards on the bottom of the list, over paying significant amount of money for this Topps card at the top of the list. But that's just my opinion. If you agree or disagree, please leave me a comment down below. I'd love to read your opinion on this. I hope this was fun. I love going back down nostalgia lane, doing these deep dives. I think 90s cards, have gotten a little bit neglected, in the hype of all the super ultra modern stuff and the Panini and Topps stuff today. But this is how most people remember their childhood who are doing cards today. I hear it from so many people over and over again. They found their binders and their top loaders full of these cards, and it's a lot of fun to go back and look at them, especially since Fleer was kind enough to tell us the pack odds back then. Hint, hint, Panini. Please give us pack odds. We'd love to know what they are. All right, I've got my Kobe Bryant card here, my PSA 9 metal. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I bought this one right when I got back into the hobby a few years ago. I have a raw copy as well. This is one of my favorite cards in my collection. If you haven't already, like I said, subscribe to our channel. Make sure if you're interested in market movers and you want to become a member, go visit marketmoversapp.com and check out our 2 pricing plans. You can also download our free Sports Card Investor app in the App Store, both on Apple and Android. And I hope that you'll give me a thumbs up. And until next time, happy collecting, happy investing.